Drewbie Wilson released more than 1,000 podcast episodes since 2020, and the way he turned his listeners into leads for his sales training platform is far more elaborated than anything I had heard so far. He also explained the 4 red flags hidden behind your biggest struggles with sales, and he broke down how he distributes his podcast every day on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and more with one VA and one system. Let's get into it. Drewbie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here. It's an honor.
Yeah, nice, very nice. So we met on Podmatch, and something that stuck with me on the first message that you sent me. You said, "I live by 2 simple rules: call the damn leads and crush the day before it crushes you." So I'm very curious to hear how these rules came to be and how they shaped, the way that you operate today.
Oh, that's a great question, and thank you for asking that. So it's 2 parts of one really crazy story that I've been on in this journey of life. So, crush the day before it crushes you. Let's start there. That's kind of where I created my first tagline. That was kind of my calling card into this whole entrepreneurial space and podcasting and all of it. So, at the time, it would have been right around 10 years ago, 2016, 2017. I had just gotten married. My son had just been born. I bought a house, had a full-time job, making not great money, but okay money, and my bills were paid. Like, everything was pretty good overall. But I was very unhappy, unfulfilled, dissatisfied with where I was in life. I had gotten a little bit overweight. The job that I had, while I was making enough money to pay the bills and, not have to do anything crazy, I was selling insurance at the time. So it was kind of a thankless job, and there wasn't a whole lot of personal fulfillment from it other than the monetary growth and gain of making sales. And so I was kind of in this weird funk of a space in life. And I remember at the time, I didn't have to be to the office until 9 a.m. Now, I was a go-getter, so I would get there at 8, but my body was waking me up at 4 and 5 in the morning. And I was like, man, I don't have time for this. I was like, I'm going to just snooze it. And I'd lay around, and I got to a point where I was like, hey, babe, something's telling me I need to do something because I'm not happy. I love you and I love our family and all the things, but just in general, I'm not feeling it. So I'm going to get up and go for a walk in the morning and just kind of clear my head. And so that's what I started doing. And I found podcasts like this one, which was amazing, right? At the time, I was listening to a lot of Jim Rohn and Eric Thomas and some of these more well-known guys. And I'll never forget, Jim Rohn had a quote that was something along the lines of, either you run the day or the day runs you. And I was like, damn, Jim, that's real powerful. I really like that. Now, that's your quote. I can't take that. And, obviously I'm trying to build my own brand because at the time I'm listening to Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, and I'm learning about Nike and branding and marketing and all these things. It's so exciting in the world of entrepreneurship. I was like, I need my own thing. So I was like, well, the world's heavy right now, so if I don't crush it, it's going to crush me. And I'm going to just, every day, crush the day before it crushes you, right? That's the whole plan. Just crush the day before it crushes you. And how can you do that? Well, for me, it was around getting up, taking action right away, getting a workout in, starting my day with positivity like podcasts instead of turning on the news and hearing about death, murder, mayhem, all the things that the news talks about, right? It's never really good stuff. And I just got really intentional with being a happier, healthier person. And that was my motto every day: crush the day before it crushes you. And every time I went out at 5 in the morning and I would work out, I'd take a douchey selfie and I'd post it to Instagram, and I'd have the hashtag crush the day before it crushes you. And it just started this whole journey. And that was kind of my foray into building a personal brand. And along the same time, I was like, hey, man, I'm going to start a podcast. And every day while I'm listening to motivational content, I'm going to take a minute to share something motivational myself. And that was my whole, how I got into this whole space. And then along the way, as I became more personally developed, I started making more sales, having more success in the business and learning marketing. And it was like, all right, cool. I've learned marketing and I'm generating my own leads for the insurance business. And these guys are asking me, hey, can you build a campaign for me to get more leads in my business? And I'm like, sure, why not? I could do that, and I'm making money on the side, building marketing campaigns. And then all of a sudden I'm looking up and these guys are calling me And I'm like, oh, these guys got to be stoked. I'm getting them hundreds of leads. Like, this is awesome. And they're like, well, this isn't working, man. I don't know. I'm spending all this money, but like, I don't think any of these leads are any good. And I'm asking myself, like, well, you got 100 in the last month. What do you mean they're no good? It's like, well, I called and they didn't really answer. And, I'm looking for people that are really trying to take action right now. And if you're in the business to business space, you know that like lead generation is not typically a one call, buy it right now type situation. There's a whole process to it, nurturing and growth and all of that, right? And we might get into that down the line here. But I remember in these conversations with these guys being like, hey, hold on a second here, because this is the business we are in. We generate leads, we call them, they're never any good, but we just work them and then we make money on it. Like, I'm confused. Just pick up your phone and call the damn leads. And it was kind of like this running joke about I had all these clients that were coming in and they'd stay for a month or two and then they didn't want to do the work and so they'd leave. And I was like, this business kind of sucks. Like, it seemed good because I was making money at first, but I don't understand why I'm doing my part, but they're not doing theirs and somehow I'm the problem. And so I remember going to my marketing buddies and be like, someday I'm just going to put call the damn leads on like a t-shirt and sell it to everybody in the online space because you guys all think this is hilarious and it's just this huge running joke that we all know. If you just call the leads, you make money. It's this weirdest thing. And so God was like, hey man, you should do something with that. And I decided to trademark both phrases because at the time in my entrepreneurial journey, I'm learning about business assets and IP and all these things. And so if you're a podcaster, like, think about how you're branding and protecting your things that you're growing, right? I was like, I'm going to go and trademark these things. And I did. Lo and behold, man, 3-4 years later, here we are. I've got 2 huge brands. I've got the Crushing the Day book. I've got a Call the Damn Leads book. I mean, we're out there, brother. We've got podcasts. It's the craziest thing, but this whole journey all just comes back to making a decision like, hey, I want to be better myself. And I like sharing that with other people.
Yeah, beautiful. I want to dive in on something because, so you mentioned the 2 podcasts. I think it's January 2024. So you stop Crushing the Day podcast, I think after like almost 900 episodes, which is crazy, by the way, because that's just 4 years, right?
Correct.
Yeah. This is crazy. Like you were recording every day, almost every day. Something like that?
Yeah, so we had episode releases 5 days a week, Monday through Friday.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so you have this huge amount of episodes and you stop and you start Call the Damn Leads podcast. Why you made that switch? Why you stop that podcast and started another one? Because I see a lot of people that just, for example, rename a podcast. You decided to stop one and start a new one. Why did you make that switch?
That's a great question. Couple of reasons as a matter of fact. One, when I stopped that podcast, the Crushing the Day, at the same time I was transitioning out of a corporation that I had been a part of for many, many years. And so as part of that transition out and the rebrand into launching the Call the Damn Leads as like a full-time business and company, I kind of realized that I was stepping into a different ideal client profile, a different avatar, different audience for a second. And at the same time, man, after 900 episodes, saying kind of the same thing over and over and over and really just being in a short, because that one was only 4 to 5 minutes. Essentially, when I was listening to all my morning motivational content, I was grabbing quotes from the air like, okay, I like this, but how do I say it in my own way? How do I, kind of like how Crushing the Day came to be. It's like, hey, I like hearing this. I don't want to plagiarize it. I will give credit where it's due in certain situations, but is there a way I can say this in my own way? And so that's where I would just post these motivational quotes to my Facebook every day. And then the Crushing the Day podcast was me sitting down looking at all these quotes that I had posted and then just musing on them for like 5 minutes about like, why was this so important to me? And what's the story behind it and the lesson that you can take away? So it was kind of this like process, but it wasn't specialized in sales, marketing, and business development, which is really what Call the Damn Leads as a company is based around. So the switch was kind of, hey man, we're rebranding, we're building new. It's a different type of show. It's a different type of audience. I didn't want to muddy the waters as well. I'm not sure if you're aware of this. You probably are because you're an expert, but you can only go back, I think it's 300 episodes on Apple Podcasts. And so even if I had continued to create amazing content, people would have never seen it because after a while it just disappears into the ether. And so it just made more sense to start fresh, bring in an upgraded audience, a different type of show, just a different structure all the way around. So that was kind of my thought process. Also, I started with 1 episode a week on the show instead of 5, which was way easier from a growth standpoint, right? It's easier to commit to 1 per week than 5 per week. So that was a big part of the switch as well.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense to have this link between the ICP that you want and the ideal listener that you want. It seems you have both aligned, and I think that's so important. I think today in podcasting. So today you have 140 episodes, at least. So yeah, congrats, because that means you've been releasing for 140 weeks in a row.
We started with 1 per week, and then I want to say June or July of last year we moved to 2 episodes per week. So Podmatch, where you and I met, amazing platform. I have been able to connect with hundreds of amazing entrepreneurs and business owners and podcasters from across the world. And so we have jumped to 2 episodes per week. I want to say that I have enough content batched out to release for about 4 to 5 more months without ever having to record again. So I think I'm going to bump up my frequency to 3 or 4 times a week going forward, because we have so much amazing content and I just love what we do. So for now, we're making the most of it, but it's because of a great platform and process that we're able to create content so consistently. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Podmatch, because I wouldn't be this many episodes in without having an opportunity to meet folks like yourself to have these kinds of conversations.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about Podmatch. I'm just starting out and I can see the difference already, so I can only agree with you. By the way, if you're listening to this and you don't see your podcast contribute enough to your business, I'm going to share at the end of this conversation how my podcast generates leads for my business. So stay until the end for that. I'm curious to know, how do you pick your guests? Like, what are you looking for to match what your audience wants to listen to?
Ooh, that's a great question. So for me, it starts with, who am I creating the content for? And I think this is a overarching strategy for business and growth as a whole. So like, pay attention, you guys. First of all, who is my audience? Who the heck am I talking to? Why do they care about me? Why do they even want to hear what me or anyone on my show has to say? It starts there. For me, it's sales professionals, small business owners, entrepreneurs, folks that are trying to grow their business through sales development. So like, I just know that's the world I come from. Those are the people that I help. If you have a product or a service and you want to sell more of it, I can help you on that process in some way or another. Peeling back those layers, obviously, of what different parts of that does that mean? Well, we have the sales process, we have the marketing process, hiring, training, right? There's lots of little levers or cogs within that giant machine. So to me, when I'm looking at a guest, I'm thinking, if I was going to go to dinner with, Jean and just say, all right, here's my plan. I want to take him and I want to introduce him to the right person. What do I know about you first and foremost as like kind of your big roadblock, or what's the thing that I know you're probably struggling with right now? And who do I know that I can introduce you to or bring along that will have more insight into that situation than I may have myself? Because I like to think I'm kind of smart. Don't get me wrong. I've done some cool stuff over the years, but I certainly don't know everything. And if I can find someone who has more knowledge than me on a topic, and I can bring the 3 of us together, it is a win-win-win, because you get to learn, I get to do you a favor, I get to learn, and this person that I've brought along now gets the benefit of pouring some of their wisdom into people who are actively looking to learn, which gives them joy and fulfillment, because typically when you meet someone who's a little farther along on the journey, they get something out of giving back in some way. And so that opportunity for them is usually a value of some sort. And those guys are always on the lookout for opportunity. So if you're someone they see with potential, they may want to invest in you knowing there's a gain for them in the big picture. So it's kind of this big convoluted process of making sure I'm putting the right people in the right room at the right time to have the right conversation. And so for me, a guest is someone I know I could sit down with one or two other people from my community and have an absolutely great conversation, walking away knowing they've learned, I've learned, this person has gotten something of value out of it. And going forward, if anybody else got to hear that conversation as a fly on the wall, they would feel almost privileged to have had the chance to sit in and be there as that, open ear. As you said, a lot of times people will start a podcast because it's the cool thing to do. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to start a podcast because everybody's going to want to listen to me. Truthfully, most people aren't going to want to listen to you. They're busy. Most people don't care what we have to say unless they're your really, really good friends. And then they really only care when you're in the room with them at the time. Like, they don't want to listen to your voice all day long. I promise. I hate it, but strangers will like your stuff way, way, way sooner than anyone that love right now. And so you just kind of have to lean in on just focusing on providing value and knowing that the right people will take the step that you want them to take after the fact. And for me, if you like Call the Damn Leads and it speaks to you, you may want to read my book. You may want to say, hey, I don't need coaching and no one's going to teach me how to be a better sales guy, but I know some people that need that reminder. So let me go buy them a hat or a keychain or a wristband or something. So that's kind of, for me, the bigger process. But there's so many people that miss that. They just do it just to do it. And there's no real flow, which is why it feels so disconnected along the way.
Yeah. And so how do you make your listener move to the next step? Get to see your book or get to see your training platform, which we will talk about in a second. How you make your listener move to the next step?
Ooh, you asking me for the secret sauce, bub? It's okay. I'm gonna give it to you guys because I don't care. This is why I love doing what I do, because I can literally share the recipe with you guys, and like 0.1% of you will actually take it and do anything with it. But for me, the biggest flow is how am I getting people on the show? The name is Call the Damn Leads. So if you see it anywhere and you go to Google and you type Call the Damn Leads, everything is brand congruent. Like, all of our social media, all of our platforms, everything all falls under one brand, Call the Damn Leads. So you will find us there. And what I'm doing when I'm on the show, and I'm not doing like ads of, hey, the show is brought to you by Call the Damn Leads. Go buy swag. Do. Like, I don't do that. You listen to the show, you get to the end, and I say, hey, listen, if you're a sales professional and you have a story that you think you'd want to share on the show, come and be a guest, man. I'd love to have you. Most of you, if you've ever been in sales, you've got some wild stories of some sort. Something crazy happened. We could talk about it, have some fun for 20 minutes, and then you get to tell your story, have a little fun, maybe provide some value. Someone hears about what you have going on. Come and be a guest. Head over to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us your details. Get signed up. I'd love to talk to you. Well, if they come and sign up, I've got their information. So, like, right off the rip, now I've got a lead list of emails and people that I can, reach out to and send promotional stuff. I don't necessarily, but I could. Secondly, when they sign up and it takes them to the next page, guess where it takes them? To my website, to buy our swag, to see the stuff. Does everybody buy it? Absolutely not, but they land on it. And some people do buy. Sometimes they go to my book. Sometimes they might swing over to Amazon and grab it. And then, in perpetuity for the next 6 months, all of my marketing is going to retarget them on Meta, Google, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, like wherever you're hanging out. My ads are going to be designed to follow you based on the fact that you went to our website one time, or you engaged with our Facebook or Instagram platform one time. So strategically, if I can just get you to engage with me one time in one place, you are now cookied. That's a nerdy term for, like, I put a little rubber band balloon on you so that while you're walking around, I can find you in the crowd, right? Now I follow you everywhere. And you're going to see Call the Damn Leads. day in and day night. Every time you open up your phone and go to the platform, you'll be like, this guy is everywhere. That's crazy. And I've architected it that way for a good reason, because the plan is to grow this thing to where everybody in the world that's in sales knows about Call the Damn Leads. And they're saying it to each other, and we're all laughing and sharing, and it's helping people make way more money so that they can live the life that they want to live. But it all comes back to the strategy of invite people to be part of the show, get them to the website so that they can check it out, or to our Facebook or to our Instagram, and then retarget them with ads. Now, you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars a day like I do. You could start with $3, $4, $5 a day, to where anybody who's checked out your website with your, podcast on it, or anyone who's checked out your social media, sees more of your content. So if you have a back-end product or service to sell someone beyond the podcast that you offer, retarget those people and show them more of your stuff and see if they're interested, especially if they were a guest on your show and they already know, like, and trust you, because that's the whole layer that you have to break down with marketing to begin with. And if you just keep showing up and you're top of mind, why wouldn't they want to come and do more business with you?
Wow. I didn't expect so much value from this question, to be honest. But I'm glad that you shared with this, because I check a lot of podcasts every day, because, I'm looking for guests and everything. So I check, how people run their podcast, what they put in the show notes, what they say during an episode. And I hear a lot of podcasts where the host doesn't say much about what to do next. Even the show notes doesn't say much about what to do next. The show notes are all about the conversation. And I always feel like there is a missed opportunity to say something for the listener who listen to this that maybe want to go to the next step. So I'm glad that you explain all this, because it's very, very high level. And so I hope you'll give some ideas to anyone who listens. I want to talk about your sales training platform a bit, because there is the book and everything, but there is also this training. And so just for anyone listening, can you give us a snapshot of the ICP, how many clients you have, just to give the listener an idea of what it is and for who it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our Damn Leads Crew. It is a weekly coaching program to help you build your sales machine. Essentially, there's three main parts. You have the system, you have the processes, and then you have the daily routine that you run to keep it running with you. And so what we essentially do is help anyone who's in the sales space, whether you're a solo sales producer or a team leader of up to 10 people. I don't take much beyond 10, because that gets into enterprise, and that's a whole different level of systems and processes. But a small sales team, 5, 10 people, 100% we can help you. Starts with building out an actual process. Most sales companies can get to 6 or 7 figures without really a whole lot of process. But when you want to start delegating and getting things off of your plate and into the hands of someone else who can be responsible, you got to take all those sales skills that you've developed and actually create a real sales process. And then you need a system to organize it in. So we will help you get that built out, help you put it all in place. And then once the system is built, right, you can have the greatest race car on the planet. You can have a Bugatti in the driveway, but if you don't know how to drive the thing, you're really in some trouble. And the fancier the machine that you have, the more skill you need to be able to drive that thing. And so I think that's a big missed part of a lot of the growth of a sales professional, is they're trying to step into a Lamborghini, but they've been driving a Honda Civic their whole life. So they don't understand how to operate the machinery in a way that will truly allow its efficiencies and its skills to step out. And I think a lot of that comes back to mindset, time management, how people are creating boundaries and priorities in their day, because that's kind of it's almost like a business mullet, right? You got the serious stuff up front, money, system, CRM, all that. But the party's in the back. It's the mindset. It's the woo-woo side that's like, hey, man, we got to get you out of your own way so that you can go and live the life that you want to live. And we do that through a series of very specific trainings, processes, and then accountability on a weekly basis. Because, hey, man, when you're in this space, things happen. You got to be able to pivot quickly. And sometimes you just need to be in the right room with the right people, having the right conversation.
Yeah. And usually, because you said that usually they don't have a system, are there some signs that can help, for anyone listening? Are there some signs that can help someone realize that they need a system? Like, what do you see usually that people just miss?
Ooh, that's a great question. So, a couple big red flags. If you're spending money on marketing and you can't tell me exactly how much money that's turning into on a consistent basis, that's red flag number one. If you don't have a way to track your marketing spend to make sure it's actually return on investment there, like if you put $1 out, are you getting $1 back at least? And if not, what happens to it over the next 60, 90 days to a year? That's a whole thing in and of itself. If you know that you're getting leads and in your heart of hearts can say for sure that you're not following up with them enough, that's a pretty big red flag and a reason for us to have a conversation. If you go to get on the phone and you don't know exactly what to say to somebody, and you're a little bit nervous because you want to sound like a professional, that's probably a red flag, and we could have a conversation to help you figure that out.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Noted. I hope anyone who listened to this took some notes, because usually we try to overcome stuff, try different ideas, but sometimes we don't see the obvious stuff that just right in front of us. Is most often is because we don't have a system. So I'm grateful that you mentioned these red flags. I want to go back to your social media strategy. Because it's quite obvious that you know what you're doing. I've checked on LinkedIn and YouTube, especially LinkedIn. I saw that you distribute your podcast quite often. And so I'm curious to know, like, has it always been this case? What's your approach to your social media strategy? How do you see things?
I am really, really blessed that a mentor I had early on taught me a very simple process for content creation and content distribution using social media. One of the trainings that he did for me early on, he sat me down and he's like, listen, man, I became a millionaire in 10 years. I think you can do it in 5. Here's how I run my day. Get started, trust the process. And I was like, all right. And so he started kind of breaking down where he does the sales calls and where he's creating content and posting it to social media. And then he was like, hey, here's kind of the flow and why we're doing it this way. Because like strategically, if you understand how social media is built, it's an algorithm that's designed to keep people engaged on their platform for as long as possible so they can sell them more advertisements. And so if we know that, and our goal is to just keep people coming back to our page so that they'll keep seeing more of our stuff, Facebook and Instagram, they like that. So strategically, let's just create content that's designed for the person we want to create a conversation with and not worry about the rest. So I'm like, all right, that makes sense. And he had a podcast that he did. At the time, I think he had 2 podcasts. He had one that he did weekly and one that he did 5 days a week. And so he was like all in. I followed the model and I was like, well, let's try it. And so that basically I just looked at what he did and followed the process.
Insane. Two podcasts, like one 5 days a week and one weekly. That's a lot of work. I'm curious. Do you have a team or you run everything alone?
It is me and a VA. So I have one personal assistant who helps me with the majority of my content. I'm gonna give you guys some more secret sauce here. I'm really blessed. I use Riverside to record all my content in. I schedule the guests. I reach out. I find the right people. I bring them on. I schedule my content. They're like, obviously I'm a guest today, so I scheduled to be here with you. But when we create our content, I show up, I record, and then my team basically takes it over from there. So my VA, she uses the tools that we have with Riverside and Canva and some of the different AI prompts that we've built together. She'll take the episode. She creates between 4 and 5 reels. She creates 2 to 3 short training clips that we can use for more of a long form, like YouTube style training. Like, hey, how to do this, or hey, here's how you do this. Because there's a lot of value in kind of the editorial side of YouTube. We then create a blog post for our website. We then take that content, the transcript, and create multiple captions and posts for social media. And then what we do is we rotate those out over a series of 7 to 10 days across all of the platforms. So instead of having all of the content come out at one time on one day on all of the platforms, we'll rotate where maybe we post about it on Facebook today, LinkedIn tomorrow, YouTube on Wednesday, Facebook, Instagram on Thursday, right? So we'll stagger them because we know, A, if you post something to any of the social media platforms, on average, only about 10% of your audience really sees it just because of timing and the algorithm and the way that it's set up. As well, if you post it at 9 a.m. on every platform and all of it goes out at the same time, you're essentially forcing your audience to go and pick which platform they're going to engage with it on. So now you're creating a bias to where on those other platforms, if they're not engaging over there, it's actually hurting your rank in the algorithm. So it makes you get dropped in how much exposure you have. And I know I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole here, so bear with me. So my strategy is if I just rotate it, maybe someone saw it briefly on Monday but didn't engage with it, and they saw it on Facebook. But then on Wednesday, they happen to load up and they're on YouTube and they see that it popped up for a long form. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to give this a listen. I knew we talked about it on Monday and I meant to come back and I didn't because I'm a human and I got distracted. So I'm kind of glad he reminded me. I'm going to go give it a listen real quick. And then he goes and he listens, so to me, the strategy is continuous exposure over time to build that familiarity instead of just kind of throwing everything at you all at once.
I see podcasts that post once about an episode and never post about it again. So I'm glad that you mentioned that you post like for over 10 days, I think you said. I've seen some podcasts, rare podcasts that do it for weeks. So they post, maybe once a week about the podcast episode, but for maybe 5-6 weeks. So I think I'm glad that you mentioned that, because mentioning a podcast episode once, it's really hard. I think, it's really hard to get your podcast known this way, I think. But you would recommend to any podcast to go on all platform, or do you think it's really specific to your case and because you want to be on all platforms so you can have this message that comes back, called the daily, that comes back every time?
I think I'm a little bit of a psycho. I probably don't have the real need to be on every platform. I think that's just me strategically thinking about the long term in terms of, especially right now with AI search, right? If you go to Google and search anything, it's going to use the AI to go and like grab the web and give you a whole hodgepodge of things. So I kind of have this belief that I just want to take over the web with call the damn leads. Like everywhere, you know how sometimes you see Red Bull stickers or like Monster Energy stickers everywhere you go? I want to get to that level. I want to be at a level where like people are just slapping stickers of call the damn lead stuff everywhere because they just love it. And they're like, I want to get to that level. And so for me, I think it requires being on every platform. Do I think a new podcaster or someone who's just getting started should go that route? Absolutely not. You are not developed enough. I've got 10 years of doing this. So I've built a system and a machine that doesn't overwhelm me to be on all of these platforms. If you are just one person and you're trying to get this thing launched, you don't need to be on all of them. Pick one platform and get really, really good at that one first. For me, it was Facebook. I got really good at Facebook. I made a lot of money over there. And then I basically was like, I'm going to take all this content that I create for Facebook and repurpose it to these other platforms so that I just have some sort of footprint in the world. I may only have a couple thousand followers on Instagram and maybe like 1,000 subscribers on YouTube and a couple thousand, 7,000-8,000 on Facebook. So I don't have like a huge audience, but I have a very catered audience. It's very specific to who I want to be following and seeing my content. And we're doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year from it. So like, you don't need a gigantic audience to make a good living from your podcast and your brand, but it does need to be very intentional. And for me, that's why I've kind of spread to all of the platforms, just to have our footprint be out there, because we can help so many different people. And some people only like the corporate side. They don't hang out on Instagram, man. They hang out on LinkedIn. Like, fair enough. All right, well, I'm going to put some stuff over on LinkedIn. But here's the Here's the other nuance to this that I think is really important. Each of these platforms has a specific audience demographic. You should be aware of that. Each of these platforms has specific requirements or recommendations for the type of content, whether it's videos, static images, carousels, reels. All of these platforms have their preferences of like what they want you to be doing on there. They also have specific types of captions that do well, right? Hashtags don't work on every platform. Sometimes we like to think they would, but they don't. So it maybe isn't necessary to utilize them in certain places. And so this is kind of the layered nuance that I want you to really start thinking about, is that if you know there's a whole breakdown of how to utilize these platforms in the most effective manner, take advantage of it. Like don't work harder than you have to. It'll tell you exactly what kind of content and what size and what ratios and all of the things that you need to create the best content for each platform. Take the time to do that, and it'll make a big difference.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I'm glad that you mentioned all this. I think I've learned a lot, so I'm gonna go back to editing this and take some notes, because there are lots of ideas that I want to implement in my own podcast. Before we leave, and I ask you a last question, best place to find you, because you're everywhere. So what are the best places to find you?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Best way to find me, number one, if you're listening to this episode right now and you enjoyed it enough to say, hey, I want to go check out more, I want you to do me a favor. Share this episode on the social media platform that you like the most. So if it's Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or wherever you hang out personally, the listener, you hearing my voice right now, share this episode over there and tag at Call the Damn Leads. That's going to do two things. One, it's going to bring me and the host the favor of like sharing the episode and getting it out there so more people can give it a listen. And also, it's going to notify me and let me know, hey, you did the thing. And so I want to pour in, I want to give you some value, right? If you tag us and you reach out and let someone know that you enjoyed this time that we just shared with you, I have a free training. I will send it to you. Tag me on social media. Make sure we see it, and then we will reach out. We'll get your email. We'll send you all that stuff. I would love to help you, help me, help the host, and create an awesome conversation around how we got there. So start with that. And then visit Call the Damn Leads. I mean, you find us on all the platforms. We're there at Call the Damn Leads. Google us. You won't miss it. Check out the podcast, all the things. But again, share this episode. That's what I really want you to do. And that's what's going to really help you the most, because I'm going to give you some free training for doing that.
Awesome. And I will share the links in the show notes. So for anyone listening, you can find the links in the show notes as well. So as I said, yeah, I'm kind of blown away by what you said, especially about the way that you distribute your podcast and the way that you turn your listeners into leads. And so for anyone listening who is a salesperson or who have salespersons in their team, and what's the one thing that you want them to take away from this conversation today?
Get organized. And that means personally and professionally. If you want to be more effective, more efficient, you want to sell more of your products or services, you want to be a better leader or example for the folks on your team, get your time under control, organize your leads and your process, and make sure you have a quality system that you're using every single day to stay organized and keep these things flowing. And if any of that is out of whack for any reason, come and find me. I've got some stuff I'd love to help point you in the right direction.
Drewbie Wilson, thanks for coming on the B2B Podcasters Show. That was amazing. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And as I mentioned earlier, if you don't see your podcast contribute enough to your business, the way I do it is that I introduce a lead magnet twice throughout every single episode. So my system has 4 steps: a call to action mid-episode, another call to action at the end of the episode, an element in the show notes, and a landing page slightly different from the classic landing page format. So obviously it's a bit difficult to make it useful to you in just a few words. So I broke down my entire system in an article, script included. The link is at the top of the show notes of this episode. Have a look, because I think it will give you the foundations that you need to start seeing leads coming from your podcast.